life and confidence coach Diana Leader, and this is my podcast, the Crave More Life Roadshow. It's here we talk about emotional hits and lovingly kicking our own asses to get through them. Just so you know, it always comes down to being your beautiful, sassy self, living and loving from you, no matter what. So join me to hear about the healing journeys of other women, and you just might become a DIY ass kicker too. Hey listeners, welcome back to the Roadshow. This is another interview with the Men of the Men's book with soul-centered coach Jere Friedman. You'll find Jere's full bio in the show notes. Hey everyone, today we have another man of the men's book whose story is about how he decided to be the father his children would want to know. Very excited to speak to him about all of that. Give me a sec. I'm Diana Leader, host of the Crave More Life Roadshow podcast. I'm an intuitive coach who helps you get what you want when you find your voice. I'm also the proud lead author of the Find Your Voice, Save Your Life book series, including the award-winning Powerful Healers, Spiritual Stories, and, of course, the amazing Transcendent Men, Real Stories. I'm just blubbering over everything this morning. Okay. Transcendent Men, that's 4, Find Your Voice, Save Your Life, 4, Transcendent Men, Real Stories. So, and that's what we're here to talk about today with my friend Jere Friedman. Jere's life work is to contribute to the evolution of consciousness on planet Earth by supporting others in finding their way to joy, fulfillment, and inner peace. He calls himself an employee of the universe with full benefits. I love that. Jere holds a master's degree in spiritual psychology and uses that training along with other skills and life experience in his work as a soul-centered coach, gong-master, certified meditation and mindfulness instructor, certified breathwork healer, minister, and practicing attorney. Jere also leads the Authentic Man Project, where men can learn and integrate more authentic ways of expressing their masculinity in today's world. Talk about a perfect author for this book. So welcome, Jere. Very, very happy to have you here, and I'm eager to chat with you.
Well, thank you so much, Diana. It's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me to talk with you this morning and share more about the incredible book that you helped to put together, that you led, and gathering the ensemble of men like myself who contributed a chapter to the book.
Thank you. So let's just jump into Transcendence. Let's just, let's see what, what is Transcendence to you, and what does it mean?
That, I'm really glad you started there, because in my work, I talk a lot about transformation. And when we were first meeting and talking about the book with other authors, and we would have a Zoom meeting every couple of weeks, and we would talk about this. And I was really kind of puzzled about the word transcendence and why that was chosen for the title of the book. So I went and looked it up in the dictionary, or the online dictionary nowadays. And the definition that really jumped out for me had the word overcoming in it. And that's when I was like, yes, that's what my story is about. And I believe that that's what the other 21 authors that contributed, each in their own way, a story of overcoming, transcending whatever challenges they faced in their life at that time, whatever was holding them back from stepping into the beauty, the dignity, the glory of fulfillment in better terms, higher terms than unfortunately the story that we grow up with by and large in society, of what a man is and what we should be as a man, and women too. I mean,
Yeah.
women have to fit into those uh, unhealthy, outdated models, and so each of us, uh, we're showing leadership in how we step up in our own way to overcome whatever challenges and struggles uh, life has handed us, as a means of really stepping into, you know, understanding and living who we really are, who we can be.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love all that, and I think that every single story is really that path that all of you took to get to be exactly who you are. And that's not always easy. So I applaud
As
you first
as
of all, but also it's you're right. It is women as well. Women need to do that kind of healing too.
as I read the different chapters, I realized, number one, we were all telling the same story,
Mm-hmm.
just different versions of it, and we were weaving together a tapestry. Um, each of us having a different thread, a different color, or a different texture thread of the tapestry of the challenges that we face as men in today's world, and the different ways that we came to the understandings that about ourselves and one another that we now have.
Yeah. And you know what? I think that that's really valuable because when we're trying to support some awareness of readers, when they have a variety of examples to
Yes.
look at, I think it's really important. And you know what? I also think it's really important for for us as writers to as humans to have the opportunity to tell our stories.
Hmm.
That's really big. Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you for allowing us to have a voice and to find our voice through these books and tell our stories. Uh, yeah, each person, each reader, is going to resonate with one or another of the stories in different ways, and that's why it's nice to have so many different voices. I may not resonate with this person's story, but wow, that one was very impactful. And by the way, I'm glad I thought of this. I really wanted to say that your introduction to the book was very, very powerful. And I was talking the other day with someone else who read the book, um, that your story about your relationship with your father uh, was very touching. And so to hear that perspective as well, because that's the reality, um, as men, as women, as human beings, we do have an impact on one another, and these ripples go out, uh, you know, in our personal relationships, our family relationships, and that ripples out into the community. And it's so important to understand that how we uh, connect with and interrelate with one another, it has, for better or for worse, it has an effect.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And it carries on
Hmm.
generation after generation. Yeah.
That's right.
Thank you for saying that about the introduction. I appreciate it. As you can well imagine, and I mean, you've been part of it, so you would have seen it. A woman leading an all men's book was a little bit of a, I wouldn't say a challenge necessarily, but it was different.
Yes.
And I realized before, because I honestly didn't know what I was going to write until the very last minute. And then I knew that it had to be something that was true for me, obviously, but also that that supported those stories.
Yeah.
So I thought showing up as a woman who had a relationship with my father, who was unable to give me all that I wanted as a child. And I'm glad that other people are saying that too. So thank you for saying that. I appreciate it.
My wife and I were talking the other day, and she asked the question, which I would ask right now: which of us ever got all that we wanted from our
Mm.
parents? Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
That just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And it's how we use that for our own learning, growth, and healing. That's what's important.
Hmm. Yes, you're absolutely right. Yeah, none of us are perfect in parenting or otherwise, or as children.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. That's a good reminder, I think.
Mhm.
So tell us about your story.
Well, my story, the title is Becoming the Man That My Children Would Want to Know. And in a nutshell, I can tell it this way. Basically, I woke up one day and realized that I was divorced and broke. I had squandered away a small inheritance. I wasn't earning enough money to support myself, much less an ex family. And I decided that something needed to change, and maybe that should be how I was going through life and living my life and the things that I was doing. So um, I started making some changes, some very positive changes, and my life was really going in the right direction. And then through a set of circumstances that were beyond my control, uh, I was actually separated from my children for about 20 years. When I first, after kind of trying to deal with that with attorneys and all of that for a couple of years, and I realized that uh, I just wasn't going to be able to see my kids for some period of time, which turned out to be a lot longer than I would have liked, but it is what it is. I realized I had to let go and get on with my life and let them get on with their life and hope that we would reconnect at some point. And so I just made a promise to myself and the higher power that I would do whatever I needed to do so that uh, hopefully one day I would be able to reconnect with my children and they would see me as the man that they would want to know as their father. I'm very happy to say that uh, after a 20-year separation, we were able to reconnect, and that's been 18 years now, and it's very beautiful. We have a very, very wonderful relationship. My son and his wife have two beautiful little girls, and they're just the gem of my life. And I'm very, very proud of my daughter, who is very happily single. And so, there was some unpleasant times along the way, but I would say all in all, it worked out well. And I'm glad that I did the work that I did, and which is, by the way, still continuing.
Mm-hmm.
I say that if I'll be learning and growing and doing what I can to become a better person until I take my last breath. So
Yeah, I love that. And isn't that the healing path? We never get there 100%, but I have to congratulate you for the
thank you,
success that you've had. I mean, it's amazing. Yes.
thank you.
Um, so tell me what was it that you needed to become? Like what was because that piece is that's your authenticity, right? I mean, you really,
And
as we have talked before, you were becoming who you truly were. So what was that? What was different for you?
thank you. And you used the word authenticity, and so that's a very important word for me. One of the things I talk about in my chapter, among other things along the way, I did get a master's degree in spiritual psychology from the University of Santa Monica. I like to say that was the best gift I ever gave myself,
Mm.
um, because what I have learned from that and what I'm constantly uh, reminding myself of is um, I am, you are, we all are divine beings having a human experience. We're not people that happen to have a soul. We're souls having a human experience on planet Earth in this lifetime. That's who I really am. And what is that? That's just, it's love. And so remembering that I am love and I am loved and I am loving and lovable, that has changed my whole relationship with myself. And when that relationship changes, every other relationship changes.
Mm.
And that's the work that I try to do in supporting my clients as a soul-centered coach and sound healer and all of the other work that I do. Um, but yeah, it's really it's coming from that place of it's not, you know, it's funny because I use the word becoming in the title of my chapter, but we don't have to become anything. We already are this.
Mm.
It's more about remembering who we already are and waking up to that awareness. And that's the beauty and the joy that's available to us.
Yeah, I love that. And that's certainly how my practice works too, that, it's we're coming back to who we are. We're not becoming something over
Right,
there. Yeah,
right.
it really is coming back. Yeah,
It's
love it.
more about
Mm.
unlearning all of the crap that we learned from our parents, bless them,
Mm-hmm.
from in school, uh, on the playground, out in the world, and we learn that we have to be a certain way in order to get along, in order to succeed, in order to get by, in order to not be punished. Okay, and and when the more we do that, the more we cover up and hide who we really are. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I often say that, we are, when we're born, we are totally authentic. We know our needs, we express ourselves to get our needs met, and then that really quickly changes. So I suppose the only
Right.
difference in that would be what we bring with us ancestrally, but yeah, and then suddenly here comes all those influences that get placed on us, and we learn to be something different. And all you guys have switched that back, which is
Yep.
beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
And you know what? I also wanted to comment on the concept of us being love, which I fully agree with, and and I have to say that was one of the things that has been, you've probably heard me say this before, that has been such a delight in working with all of you while this book has been brought to life, is that you all lead with love. You recognize that in yourself, you recognize that in people around you, and it's a beautiful thing to experience. Yeah.
Mm. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, tell me a little bit about what spiritual psychology actually is.
Okay. Um, Spiritual psychology is it's the art and the science of exploring just a few fundamental questions like who am I, why am I here, and how can I make a meaningful difference in this life? Okay.
Mm.
It's actually one of the interesting things I learned is the word psychology. The root of the word psychology, psycho and logos. Logos is the study of, right? The psycho or the psyche. Do you know what the psyche is in ancient Greek, the root word?
I don't.
Soul.
Oh,
This is
really?
the study of our soul. And
Mm.
so when psychology was first happening, like in the late 1800s, you know, these people were kind of delving into, what is our soul? Who are we
Mm-hmm.
really? As they started uh, emerging and saying, well, this is real and this is a science, okay, the study of the psyche. Well, the scientific community and the medical community said, whoa, 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 whoa. Science is about measuring something, having measurable results. Well, what are you measuring? How do you measure the soul? And so, that was a
Good
little hard.
question.
Yeah, right. Like where's that yardstick? Well, over time, what they found that they could measure was behavior. You can measure changes in a person's behavior, right?
Mhm.
Patient comes in, meets with the therapist over time. They are not doing what they were doing, or they're relieved from their anxiety or their depression or whatever it is. We can measure that. So psychology got kind of sidetracked into this whole, well, and I'm not, listen, I spent 6 years in psychoanalysis. There's a lot of value in traditional psychology. But in a way, it got sidetracked because we couldn't talk about the soul, right?
Mhm.
Spiritual psychology for the last 40 or so years is about putting soul back into psychology. And when we say spiritual, we're not talking about religion. We're just saying that there is, or there may be, a higher power, a creator that, is kind of behind the curtain over there.
Mhm.
And there's a piece of that in each of us. And once we start recognizing that, then I no longer see myself as separate from you or anyone else. Okay. You're just another reflection of me. Your outer expression may differ in many ways.
Mhm.
Your outer expression may annoy or irritate or piss me off at times, or it may bring me great joy, but that's not who you are. That's how you show up as a human being. But if I remember that who you are is just another reflection of who I am and who everyone else in this world is, that kind of changes how I see the world.
Yeah. Yeah. So, when you think about that kind of, um, because I'm going back to the transcendence piece in there,
Yeah.
because as you're, of course, as you're understanding that, then you're making choices that are, that take you to a different level. So what kind of came first for you? Was it that training, or was it the personal work that you did?
Um, well, the spiritual psychology, uh, I entered the program in 2012. So there was a lot that happened, in the 20 or so years prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, so, yeah, just recognizing that I wasn't making good choices in my life. As I say in my chapter, I was, drinking and smoking a lot of pot to numb the pain that I was experiencing, and a lot of that was really just my uh, belief uh, that I wasn't a good person, that I wasn't worthy, that I wasn't good enough. Okay, those old stories, all right, that I had to unlearn over time. Um, so there was a lot of just making better choices of um, who I was and wasn't hanging out with, and what I wanted out of my relationships. I talk a lot or some in the chapter about uh, my relationships with women uh, for a good bit of my adult life, which were very unhealthy. And I'm very blessed, to have met. I decided to try something different, and I met Ellen, and we've been together for 28 years now, and we'll
Mm.
celebrate our 25th wedding anniversary in a few months.
Oh, beautiful!
Um,
Congratulations.
so, yeah, thank you very much. So, just showing up differently, um, learning that it's safe, even before the spiritual psychology program, but very much since then. learning that it's safe just to be vulnerable with another person, to
Right.
just put it out there. And it's scary if you really open up and give another person your heart, and you're really willing to do that. You don't know what they're going to do with it, and
Yeah.
that can be very scary. Are they going to take it and hold it gently and lovingly and carefully, or are they just gonna, toss it on the ground and stomp on it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of us just stay closed up and hidden.
Yeah.
Well, um, it's I would say challenging, if not impossible, to have a real, meaningful adult relationship with another human being if you're not willing to be really open and
Yeah.
vulnerable with them and trust them to be kind and loving in return.
Right. Right. And yes, we already talked about the influences that come before you even have to think about whether or not that person is someone that you can trust. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Vulnerability was a huge topic in the whole book. It really was,
Hmm. Yeah.
and I think probably one of the hardest things for, and I mean, I am not, I don't work a lot with men, but it feels like one of the biggest issues that men face. Is that something that you run into?
Absolutely, and that's something that I've learned along the way, and that I really work with in the men's groups that I lead. We are taught from very early on. I share the story in my chapter. I was 5 or 6 years old, and I have the absolute, uh, you know, vivid memory of being in a situation where I burst out crying, and this, older boy, just got in my face and said, "Don't cry. Boys don't cry." We are taught as boys from a very early age, vulnerability is weakness. You're showing weakness if you're vulnerable. That is a definition of vulnerable. Okay, is that something is weak? But I will tell you from my experience from working with other men, I cannot think of very many things that are more courageous and that take more strength than what I just said about being vulnerable and opening up and saying, I trust you, with what I'm telling you.
Yeah, beautiful.
That takes strength. That takes courage. And I don't care how many hundreds of pounds you can lift over your head, you know, you put your heart on the line with another human being.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
beautiful. And you know what? I really hope that that becomes clear when people read the book. And I hope
Hmm.
lots of men start to subscribe to that, or at least start to do the work to learn that kind of vulnerability. It's beautiful. And it makes
I
a
really
difference to
see.
women, too.
It,
Sorry.
it does. It
Yeah.
absolutely does. And a couple of things I want to say. First of all, I want to say I really see the 22 men who wrote in this book, myself included, as showing leadership in this area because each and every one of us put it out there. This is my story. I don't care, who reads it. I don't care what you think. This is my story, and so that took vulnerability and courage from each and every one of us, and we're showing leadership. And guess what? We didn't die.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, it didn't kill us, and it didn't kill us physically, and it didn't kill us in a figurative sense. Okay, so the world needs more of that, and if I'm guessing that you've read Brene Brown's work and seen her videos. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
she's a rock star in this field.
Mm-hmm.
We need more of that, and from women too. And I've been in a lot of situations, and I coach men and women. And in the spiritual psychology program, men and women would stand up and share things. And it's hard for women to be truly vulnerable and honest for the same reasons, because of your history as a child, because of what happened. And it's the stuff we all have to unlearn. And so it's important for women to see and hear this as well.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree. I also think that it's a really great message for partners to know that um, that it's always our responsibility to show up whole to a relationship, but we can expect our partner to be whole as well. So, to because so many women I hear this all the time. Like I keep meeting the wrong kind of man, the wrong kind of partner. It just happens again and again. What's wrong with me? Why am I choosing these people? And so there is an element of doing our own work to be the kind of partner that we want to be. I think is really vital. But it's also an important piece just to change the expectations, I think, of partners, that yes, they're you have options. You have options. There are people who will show up with you and be whole and vulnerable and lead with love, and I think that's a beautiful message for a partner of any kind.
And to support one another and teach one another and hold one another accountable. Okay, that and God bless her. Ellen sure, is a champion of that. If I'm not really showing up and uh, doing, you know, doing my share in
Mm-hmm.
the relationship, she'll call me out, and
Good stuff.
and I appreciate that from her. She's, I appreciate that, and it really helps. And I probably do the same for her from time to time.
Yeah, I hope
But
so.
it's about loving support and encouragement and holding each other accountable.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So tell us about your men's group.
Okay, I call it the Authentic Man Project, and there's different forms of it, but everything from uh, like a mastermind group that might meet once a month or so, and I've done a few weekend retreats. COVID kind of threw a lot of that on the rocks,
I
but
bet.
I'm actually with the book, and I'm using the book to kind of reboot and really launch that again. And
Excellent.
but the whole focus of it, I call it the Authentic Man Project. We talk about authenticity, the authentic self, and it's looking at um, you know and part of it, a big part of it, is because we're exploring questions that I want to explore. All
Mm-hmm.
right, I want support on going deeper on my work. Who am I as a man? What does it mean to be a man in today's world? What is masculinity? What is masculinity really? And how can I express that in appropriate ways that are healthy for myself, for my partner, for my loved ones, for my community? Okay. If we can finally admit that masculinity is not, how hard I can hit something, or how far I can throw it, or how high I can lift it, or how fast I can run, or whatever, um, what is it then? And I say that it's, what we've been talking about. It's being kind and loving and gentle when those are appropriate things to do.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. To kind of balance that masculine and feminine within us, right?
Yeah,
That,
yeah,
yeah, choosing what we need to be at any given moment, which is
yeah.
beautiful. Yeah,
Thank you for saying the key word, the feminine within us. That's also a big part of it, is embracing the reality that human beings are both masculine and feminine.
mm-hmm.
We have both, and we should honor and share and nurture both aspects of ourselves. And bringing that more into balance, and it's always, depending on the situation. Some situations need a lot of masculinity.
Yeah.
Take charge, show leadership, go in this direction. And some situations require the feminine side. Open up, receive, create. That's who we are as human beings.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad that you touched on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one last question before we wrap up, Jere, and that is, what are your hopes for this book? This amazing book.
Oh, wow. So I hope a lot of men and women will read this. I hope that the men who read it will either see themselves in these stories or be inspired to step up, to see to see that it's safe to move in this direction. One of the last things I say in my chapter is, if I can do it, you can do it. And that
Mm.
goes for men and women. Okay. It's safe to move. Not only is it safe, it's so gorgeous. It's so rewarding. It's so fulfilling to step out of identifying as fill in the blank, you know, husband, brother, father, son, uh, uh, whatever your work is, attorney or sound healer or coach, uh, uh, step out of those personas, okay, which we just put on different personas depending on who the situation we're in and
Yeah.
who we're talking to put those aside. Now, yeah, those are necessary at times, but to step into who we really are. And so for men and women to see, not only can it be done, it is done. We are doing it. You're capable of it. When I say you, anyone out there reading the book or seeing this talk, and and the world becomes a better place for it.
Mm.
That's, to me, that's our responsibility in this lifetime, is to do our work, to heal ourselves, because by doing so, we heal the world, we heal those who have come before us, and we sure enough create a better world for those who are coming after us.
Mm.
And one other little tagline: I do hope a lot of women will read this book so that you may get better insight into um, the stuff that us guys are dealing with.
Yeah.
It ain't easy being me some days.
I totally get that, and again, it comes back down to expectations, right?
Yeah.
If a man is expected to do this, then, shame on you if you don't, and for women as well. So yes, it's a great book to be reminded of that stuff and to take a look at take stock of that in your own, for yourself, and then in your own relationships too. Yeah, very excited about this book.
Thank you so much. What are your hopes and dreams or wishes for the book?
You know what? I couldn't offer anything more than what you said. I want it to be. I want it to be something that is a learning tool for people. I want them to be able to look at it and say, oh, I can relate to that, take that back, create their own awareness, and make whatever changes they're ready to make for themselves. I don't think I can ask for more. So do I want it to go into 1 million households? Yeah, but let's just cross our fingers on that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jere, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it, and this has been a great chat. It's been nice to get to know you even better, and so So yes, thank you so much for being
Well,
here.
thank you, Diana, for inviting me on today and for putting the book together and
Mm.
doing all that you do. And it's definitely been a joy working with you on this project and getting to know you.
Oh, thank you so much. Very kind. So, everybody, the book is on Amazon, so go and get it, please. You will not be disappointed. I have no doubt about that. It's an amazing book. The stories are hugely vulnerable and courageous. So, please go and get it and give us some feedback. We'd love to have some feedback. And listeners, just by being here, you have created some awareness for yourself. Whatever you heard, whatever you took in, I call that kicking our own ass. You can call it whatever you want, but thank you. I'm very, very grateful that you were here as well, and we will see you next time. If you like today's podcast, hit subscribe at the bottom on your way out, and come find me at cravemorelife.com for even more DIY ass kicking.